Hello and welcome to the How to Start a Private Chartered Non-Public School in Ohio online tutorial. The purpose of this tutorial is to illustrate the non-public chartering process. In this tutorial, we will explore what it means to be a chartered non-public school, as well as illustrate some of the benefits and the requirements of being chartered, and examine the steps which must be completed as part of the chartering process. Prior to starting, please be aware that important chartering information and forms may be found on the Ohio Department of Education website by typing the word chartering in the search box at the top right side of the ODE main webpage. Doing this will take you to the How to Receive a State Charter webpage, where you will find all of the forms and documents we will discuss in this tutorial. You can also find these forms under User Manuals and Forms in the SAFE application. These forms will assist you in the chartering process: the Non-Public School Charter Checklist, the Guide for Non-Public Schools Seeking a Charter, the Operating Standards for Ohio Schools, Ohio Administrative Code 3301-35, Affidavit of Intent Not to Discriminate form, Racial Non-Discriminatory Language, the Report of Non-Public Form Instructions and Form. Be sure to print out the Non-Public School Charter Checklist, at a minimum. In Ohio, parents have several options when it comes to educating their children. Traditional public schools, which are tuition-free and supported by federal, state, and local tax dollars. Community schools, which are public charter schools, sometimes referred to simply as chartered schools, which are also usually tuition-free and receive federal, state, and local tax dollars through local school districts. Chartered non-public schools, which are usually referred to as private schools and usually charge tuition, may receive some federal and state funds, and because they are chartered, must adhere to the state operating standards for schools. And non-chartered, non-tax supported schools, which are also private schools but are not chartered due to strongly held religious beliefs. They do not receive funds from federal, state, or local sources and are not required to follow the state operating standards. Let's look a little closer at chartered non-public schools. These schools are privately owned and operated and primarily funded through tuition payments. They may be religiously affiliated. However, there are many that are not. These schools have completed the chartering process and have submitted a plan of operation which has been approved by the Ohio Department of Education. That approval means that the operating plan submitted meets all the required standards set forth in law by the state of Ohio. Benefits of being chartered may include access to auxiliary services and non-public administrative cost reimbursement funds. In addition, chartered non-public schools are eligible to participate in Ohio's non-public scholarship programs such as the Autism Scholarship, John Peterson Special Needs Scholarship, the Cleveland Scholarship, and EdChoice and EdChoice expansion programs. Students enrolled in chartered non-public school may be eligible for transportation services, and the high school diplomas issued are recognized by the State Board of Education via Ohio Department of Education. What are the requirements of being chartered? As part of the chartering process, the principal and all the teachers must obtain a valid Ohio teaching license. In addition, all staff must be evaluated annually. Any person in the building found to be working with students on a regular basis must have current background checks on file with the school in accordance with House Bill 190. Chartered non-public schools are required to be open for instruction for a minimum amount of time as prescribed by law. Students attending the school must report to a brick-and-mortar building. Chartered non-public schools must also administer annual standardized achievement tests, and all high school students are required to meet the Ohio graduation requirements, which include taking end-of-course exams or the approved alternative assessments. All chartered non-public schools must have an occupancy permit zoned for education, meet all local health and fire inspection requirements, and keeping student and staff records according to law. It takes a minimum of 18 months to 2 years to charter a school. The first step of the chartering process begins with an inquiry email to the Ohio Department of Education at chartered.nonpublic.schools@education.ohio.gov and viewing this tutorial. To complete the survey that accompanies the tutorial, you will need to create a SAFE account and request access to the Charter Nonpublic web application. If you have not already done so, be sure to print out the Nonpublic School Charter Checklist, which specifies the individual tasks which must be completed to become a nonpublic chartered school in Ohio. You may use the checklist to document your progress towards becoming chartered. The process takes a minimum of 18 months to 2 years and must be completed within 3 years of receiving a conditional charter. Once you have completed this tutorial and the survey, you have completed step 1 of the process. Please be aware that all communications with the Ohio Department of Education, including emails, are considered public record. If you have not done so already, please download and review the Guide for Nonpublic Schools Seeking a Charter. This document is intended to be used as a guide to develop the plan of compliance for nonpublic schools seeking to become chartered. Step 2 on the checklist is to finalize a school location and establish governing board members. For assistance, see the Guide for Nonpublic Schools Seeking a Charter. Step 3 on the checklist is to download the Affidavit of Intent Not to Discriminate and the Racial Non-Discriminatory Policy documents. The affidavit must be completed and notarized and then submitted through the SAFE application to ODE. In addition, the racial non-discriminatory policy language must be adopted by the governing board, and this language must also be uploaded through the SAFE application on school letterhead. In addition, you should download the operating standards for Ohio schools. These can be found in Ohio Administrative Code 3301-35 and are the standards all chartered schools must maintain. They establish specific expectations and provide additional guidelines to use in creating the best learning conditions for meeting the personalized needs of each student and achieving state and local educational goals and objectives. Ultimately, school leaders must create and submit a plan of compliance, or a POC, for meeting state standards. Answering the questions within the Guide for Nonpublic Schools Seeking a Charter will assist in completing the plan of compliance and assure that plan is in accordance with Ohio's operating standards for schools. Your answers are for you to begin putting thought to creating the plan in adherence to the laws. The guide lists the statutory authority and state standards, and then lists insightful questions to be considered and addressed in creation of your school's plan. While you are working on your plan of compliance, you will need to also provide a teacher-staff handbook, student handbook, school calendar for the upcoming or current school year with your application. ODE will also need a copy of the fire inspection, health inspection, and occupancy permit for your building. The occupancy permit must state the building is zoned for educational use. Once the plan of compliance is completed, it must be uploaded into the online application under the Docs tab. Please make sure to address all areas of the plan. Be sure to include how your school will meet conditional charter requirements and ultimately those of all nonpublic schools. If there are any questions regarding your school's plan of compliance, ODE will ask for clarification and revisions. Once all requirements are met and the plan of compliance is approved, the first site visit will be scheduled. Students must be in attendance during this visit. After a successful on-site visit, the school will receive a conditional charter to operate and be assigned an information retrieval number, also known as an IRN. Some enrolled students at the school may be eligible for transportation services at this point. Under the conditional charter, the school must educate children in accordance with the operating standards and their plan of compliance approved by ODE. The second visit will be conducted after the school has operated for 3 to 6 months under the conditional charter. The second site visit and the final charter must be achieved within 3 years of when the conditional charter is issued. Before the second visit, the report of a non-public school must be completed and uploaded. The document must be notarized. After at least 3 to 6 months of operating under the conditional charter, the school can request a final chartering visit. ODE will visit the school to verify compliance. If there are not any issues found, the school will be granted a charter by the State Board of Education. Some school operational changes may require a change to the school's charter and must be submitted to the Ohio Department of Education for review. Changes in the charter include school name, location or ownership, as well as adding grades to a current charter or adding an annex. An annex would be considered an additional building that would operate within the same district as the current charter. What are the major restrictions? Chartered non-public schools cannot commingle finances or operations with a community school or a non-chartered, non-tax supported school. ODE cannot approve virtual or online programs. Virtual learning is permissible while the student is in attendance at the building, but virtual learning program participation at a location other than the chartered non-public school building is not permissible as part of the curriculum. Students must report to a brick-and-mortar school building for daily instruction. The only exception to this may be is if the student is participating in a College Credit Plus course that is online. Review the checklist and consider these questions. Does your school have a location? Has a governing board been established? What grade levels will you serve? What curriculum will be used? What is the school's business plan? Have you considered startup costs and how much you will charge for tuition after startup? What population of students will you target and serve? And how many staff and teachers will be hired at what point in time? There are many things to consider, and help is available. Chartering information can be found on the Ohio Department of Education's website, education.ohio.gov, by typing the word chartering in the search box at the top right side of the ODE main webpage. This will take you to the How to Receive a State Charter webpage. Then select Chartered Non-Public Schools. If you require assistance while completing the chartering process, do not hesitate to call the Office of Non-Public Educational Options at 614-728-2678 or email chartered.nonpublic.schools@education.ohio.gov. We look forward to working with you during the chartering process.